Okay, so welcome to this episode of Conversations with Kevin podcast. Today's guest is Matt Gottesman. So Matt is the founder and chief of HDF Magazine, co-founder of Hustle Sold Separately, consultant on many businesses, including Moet Hennessy, Louis Vuitton. He's been a mentor to me and many others, and helps purpose-driven entrepreneurs realize their vision. And I just wanted to quote something from Matt, so from the HDF the HDF mission, which is going to lead into the first question, really. But this is final paragraph, and it says, "Do embrace being different. Embrace your creative, curious, and geeky side. Yet stay focused, ambitious, and hopeful. Have a healthy relationship with yourself, and always do the right thing. Know your value, and if you have to explain to people around you, it's time to move on. Challenge the status quo and never be afraid to admit that you don't know something. Every now and again, take stock of yourself. Look around the room and ask yourself, am I the smartest person there? If you are, then you're in trouble. Always place yourself around smarter, more elevated people, and you too will become smarter and more elevated." See, that's dope. I love that, right? And one of the reasons I love that so much, and guys, if you see this, go and follow Matt on Facebook, and you'll see the full mission on there as well. And everything you talk about in that, and everything you talk about, because I've been fortunate enough to come and work with you in Arizona and Manifest and be on an event. And what's interesting is that this whole entrepreneurship thing and everything, the way it's going it's the same thing. It's a metaphor for life, and it's not, there is no distinction in my mind between life and entrepreneurship. Well, at least the way you are documenting it and showing people.
Yeah. I don't know, was it? there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for reading that. It's been a while since I read that, and it feels good to revisit that because it's very, very true. And yeah, there's this fine line between our life and the business or the thing that we want to create, and at the end of it, or at the core of it, I should really say, is identity. It's something that I've actually really been focusing heavily on in the last probably couple of months, is that our identity, right, is who we are in this world, but that has to come from a different kind of understanding. More often than not, people get job titles, or they get things and houses, and they keep up with the Joneses, or they start their companies because they want to be a CEO and an entrepreneur, and they want all these things to actually get their identity. But the actual part is that your identity is already, like, it's an inside job. You already technically know who you are. You just have to become more acquainted with it. And then once you do that, then all the work that you do will have greater impact, and actually it'll connect with the intended people much faster.
Sure.
I don't know if that really answered your question, but it was just something.
No, it really does. It really does. And it's funny. I just think you say something else as well, which is quite interesting. It's like there is like a new movement almost, and I feel it too. And it's one of those things that is palpable. But I find it really difficult, at least, to articulate that what's going on. We just know. I mean, you cannot help but feel the world is shifting. I think we're a bit more self-sufficient, and it's challenging the status quo, which is you say all the time, and it's just like, Jesus, can we just get out of this matrix or this system and do things that we really want to do? And this is what kind of what epitomizes living full is like living by design and not default, and life on your own terms, and creating a thing completely for you and not what society tells you, your parents or whatever, family, and the tribe that you've created very much do the same thing. I mean, could you talk on your own experience about this as well?
About the shift that's going on?
Yeah.
It's such good timing. I was talking with an entrepreneur yesterday who He's doing very well. And I really don't want to butcher what he said, but I can get the context out, which was, you know, he has an agency, a consultancy, and and you know, he's also worked corporate before, and he was saying that you know, he's just come to a crossroads in his life where he has a very keen understanding of who he is, and he has to make shifts. And I said, you know, what are your thoughts around that? And he said, I can certainly it's not live in mediocrity. It wasn't like that. It was like, I can certainly take pain. He's like, but I have a breaking point. He's like, there's a point at which I can no longer take, and I'm there. It was kind of like along that kind of context.
Sure.
You know, he's like, I have that I'm at that moment where, like, you know, I can take a lot, but once I've gotten to that point where I can't take no more and I'm there, is like, there's no going back, right? A shift must be made, in other words, is kind of what he was saying. And I feel like a lot of people are experiencing around the world this kind of like, shit is broken. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
Like, and if shit is broken, I can't keep pointing fingers because that doesn't seem to work. Obviously, we know that. So what am I going to do about it? What does my world in this world look like? And so a lot more people are waking up because of what they currently are experiencing doesn't resonate anymore. And then on top of that, we're living in a time where, because of the resources and the tools and the things that we have, we can connect to vast audiences worldwide within the thing we want to bring to this world, and you know, bring that passion, bring that art, bring that product, bring that service out that resonates with us, and not feel as defeated. You know, in the process of, like, you know, entrepreneurship, like 80 years ago, when you launched something, how did somebody know about it? You know, now when you're like, you know what, I want to be a leading hypnotherapist, or I want to be a leading, you know, financial service provider, I want to be a leading, you know, architect or whatever, you can literally now talk to the world and in mass on those things, and the passion and the love behind it, and connect to the people that matter. And you can almost get rid of all that other noise. Sure. And so, you know, we live in a very abundant time as well, if it's viewed that way.
Yeah, for sure. And so, with you, as far as the type of people that you're working with, could you talk on your journey? Because obviously, I mentioned a couple of huge, you know, monster brands there, but your focus seems to be very much on people like myself, or people that are on the come up, and you're documenting the journey and, you know, showing how real it is, rather than this, you know, a highlight reel which you see all over social media about you know, people only documenting wins, whereas it's not so much the losses, you know. So I suppose there's two questions there. Number one is, why the entrepreneur and not these big corporates? And two, what is it you get from it from working with the entrepreneurs?
This book right here will change any person's perspective on what I'm about to say. There are 5 laws of success, okay? And I'm going to read them out loud, and then I'll answer your question, but These will probably answer a lot of those questions.
Sure.
There's 5 laws. The law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. All right? The law of value. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. And sorry, that's actually the first one. The law of value. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. The law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. Right? The third is the law of influence. And that's your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Right? And they're all intertwined, if you've noticed this so far. And then the law of authenticity, which you and I, we've talked about before.
Yeah.
And that states the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself, right? And then the law of receptivity, which is a very interesting concept, and you have to really read the book to get through that. But the key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving, because that's actually a balance. We give, its counterpart has to actually come back in abundantly from that.
Sure.
Why am I saying all this? So working with companies is great, and it's something that I will probably continue to do in the future. Brands that are truly trying to change the world and connect with their audiences and do the things that they're doing is a beautiful thing. Are a lot of them doing that? I think they're still going through their own dynamic changes in the business world. I think they're still trying to figure that out. And if you think about it, corporations have a lot of people that work for them. Even 20 or 30 people, it's still 20 or 30 souls that are like, who am I? Am I in the right position? Am I working at the right company? Do I want to be doing this?
Oh, yeah,
there's a lot of energy going on there that when I would work for some of these brands, some of the brands you mentioned, those were beautiful contracts. They were great. They didn't really need much more than just my digital know-how. But other companies I've worked with, it can get a little complex in working with them. Either A, you feel like you sometimes start running their companies, or B, you're dealing more with the internal infrastructure of the people and what they're going through than the actual bigger picture at large for how they're impacting the world. For me, I want to impact the world. So how do I do that? Well, when you work with as a consultant for a company, yeah, there might be several people involved, but it's one company. Well, I'd rather serve in mass. I want to actually help millions upon millions of people, because the ripple effect from that is, if I'm helping purpose-driven entrepreneurs, or just entrepreneurs at large, get their vision and impact out to the world in its most meaningful manner, that has a ripple effect. So like, let's say, some Eastern medicine practicing, naturopath here in Arizona wants to heal the world, internally from a few things that they can do for themselves, whatever, and they want more people to know about it. Well, if I'm the person helping their brand and messaging and business approach and all that stuff to really become its truest form, its truest vision, there's a ripple effect from that.
Sure.
Right? So now they're serving 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000 people. So like, I get chills thinking about it, because I'm like, man, like, what a beautiful thing to be able to help other people who help other people who help other people. And that was my shift. That was that. And it's funny because it's actually, I think, the first time I've really vocalized it like this, and how I'm telling you, that made a difference for me. And again, you can accomplish that with one big company, but companies sometimes there's just so much politics that they can't move as fast as the world who wants to change can.
True. Yeah.
Right? So if you're not moving, these people are, I gotta move. And that's, so please get out of our way.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, so I see what you're saying, because it's not as agile as a big corporation. It's a big kind of slow moving beast, or a slow moving vessel. Whereas you're talking about a speedboat or something a lot more agile, at least. Yeah,
and that's why I brought up these. This book, you'll read it in a day and a half. I seriously, I talked about this on a live, in Outreach Tribe last week. It's an incredible book. It really just it totally simplifies everything, that, be willing to give more in value than you receive in payment, but serve at mass. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? It's called Starbucks. It's called Apple. Serve in mass, a $1,200 computer that, helps an individual, realize their potential in creating their business online, their videography, their photography, doing all that other stuff. A $1,200 computer times millions of buyers. You know what I'm saying? Now, obviously, $1,200 to some people's like, oh my God, but like, okay, Starbucks, a $4 cup of coffee that makes them feel really, really good for the day. You know, it is, you know, but they want to serve coffee en masse to like human beings worldwide. Cool. Like give more in value than you receive in payment. And then, you know, exponentially, I think from there, you can do way, way, way more. So yes, that's the shift for me.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting. I wanted to touch on something you said about this ripple effect as well. And that sometimes there's no algorithm or metric in the world that sometimes can touch or capture the true number of the people that you affect. A good friend of ours, Gabby, did some work with her last week, I think it was, and or maybe Monday, whatever. But we were talking about how sometimes people don't even see or engage or interact with the content that you're putting out, but that doesn't mean they're consuming it, having an effect, or talking about it and having an effect on the people that they share that with, or have a small shift or whatever. And again, that ripple effect is massive. It's a lot bigger than we actually think it is, you know, because there is no data for that.
Right. That's a good point. There's no data for sometimes the ripple effect, except for what time will produce.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. When you really think about that. So we don't always know. Well, we know signals in the interim when somebody reaches out, a follower, a fan, or a person that says, hey, this really hit me today. Thank you. I tell people all the time how important that is, because we don't always know. We don't know. We're out there sometimes, not blindly, but like we're, you know, blind faith. We're constantly trusting our intuition that what we're doing is making an impact. And sometimes until you get to a place where they're like, oh yeah, no, I know that person. Oh yeah, like they're getting the millions of views. We don't know the effect until people actually tell us. And so those little signals along the way really do help. Yeah. But then at the same time, I've also learned a lot about detachment, is that whether they reach out to us or not, somebody saw it, and I hope that it made their day.
For sure.
Right? Because if I'm giving and I'm open to the law of receptivity, it'll have its balance in this world, right? Yeah, so yeah, you know,
that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool, man. Because so many people, well, you know, myself, anybody that's a creator, you can, you know, that when the doubt creeps in or you're questioning yourself, you're like, oh, I don't really know. I'm not putting that out. Then the focus, and like you said about detachment just then, the focus is back on you and how you're feeling about something, where it should be on the other person, or the person that you're looking to touch. And it's like you said something about faith, and it is having faith in whatever your message is or whatever it is that you're looking to put out is going to affect that person or somebody in a positive manner. So regardless of the haters, regardless of how you're feeling, if you keep that faith, then it's I don't know. It's just it's a good thing to keep in mind, I think, as you move forward, because we all have doubts. We all have those like imposter syndromes or whatever. And I think it's really key to put those things aside and realize that you're touching people that you're never ever going to interact with, or you're never going to hear back from. But keep that faith and know that that's going to be you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, you know, the imposter syndrome is a funny thing. Back to identity, right? See how much of what we do is related to here and here, right? Or yeah, here and here, the mind and the heart. But identity, right? And it's an interesting thing the fact of the matter is that if you are studying something and have been studying something and you are really into it and you've been using it, I saw you're trying to help others with it. I saw and heard a quote the other day from Tracy, who was at our manifest, right? And she said a quote that's out there. We teach others what we teach ourselves the most. Sure. What we need ourselves most, right? interesting that way, right? Now, what separates, I think, the imposter, the people who typically are really willing to do the work usually feel like the imposters, because we see the imposters out there who haven't done the work but are selling the dream. Right? And so it's a very fine line, but at the end of the day, we also may sometimes feel like an imposter, because it's like, oh man, like I'm learning this so much, like there's so much to it, like who am I to tell other people, whatever. And you're like, well, you're a person who's 5-10 years deep. They're not, you know, or like you've been working on yourself for so long on those things that like, even if you're 2 years ahead of most, people will ask you like, well, how are you doing it? Like, oh, well, here's how I'm doing it. You know, or here's the product I use that I created for myself, or here, you know, so the imposter syndrome can actually move when we realize that like, oh, the thing that I'm working on the most for me, there's millions others that need that. So now that I'm constantly working on my craft for me, how do I help all those other people out? From that, once we take that perspective, I think the imposter syndrome starts to move. But yeah, I mean, our minds mess with us all the time.
For sure.
And again, that's why we have to be careful of our inputs, right? From social media and the news and all that other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. So I really want to sort of, this is a question for those people that they may be watching this and they're in their job, they're in their 9 to 5 and they're feeling stuck. They know that they're not being fulfilled, or for whatever reason, they're not feeling fully fulfilled, and they feel like they could do more. What would be your advice to somebody that needs to take their first, what would that first step be, or advice be to them?
If they're not feeling fulfilled?
Not feeling fulfilled, but they want to do something for themselves. They want to do this, you know, set out on this entrepreneurial journey and take the leap, so to speak.
That's why I said not being fulfilled.
Yeah.
It was a trip. No, but no, I absolutely, you know, first step. Oh man. Let me start by saying that there's no right first step. There's probably a lot of different right first steps, because everybody's different, right? And a lot of people out there diagnose that like leap and everything will come and you'll figure it out along the way, like all this stuff. I basically implore people to really think about their natural curiosities. And here's what I mean by that. Before you do anything drastic, ask yourself, like, what do I want? Like, what feels good? What's my natural curiosity? What just feels good to me? Don't worry about how that looks. Don't worry about that, like that feels really weird, that like that's not a normal job, that's not what I've been told, that's not how my life has turned out, that's not like, because that's what happens and why people suppress asking themselves those very simple questions. How often has somebody asked a person, you and I have done this before, what do you want? And like a deer in headlights. Most people are like, what? And then they'll say the masked answers, right? The masked answers of the things that they think that they want, and or like, you know, the politically correct answers and all this other stuff. Whereas just been like, oh, I just want to be happy. Like, or I want to massively affect change globally. I want to help inspire people to bring their vision to life with their brands and their businesses, and be happy every day I wake up. You know, it takes time to get to that point, but you have to start asking those questions. There's cool little triggers and signals that you can look for. I tell people all the time, look to when you were like 11, 12, 13 years old to about like 20, 21. A lot of your natural curiosities that were happening then, doesn't mean that like, you're going to return to some of those things, but a lot of your natural curiosities that were happening during then were actually very much in alignment to potentially your purpose or the things that you would want to be doing in life. Why? When we're younger, we're closer to birth. And so children and teens and whatnot are statistically more open because of their youth. Open meaning like from being born, like their soul has a purpose. You know, I guess it depends on the audience that's listening to this, but it's true. And I'll show you here in a minute how it's true. But like for the most part, people kind of have a gut feeling when they're young about like, yeah, I'm going to go do this. And people are like, what? A rock star? But if you ask Justin Timberlake, he never even flinched about being a rock star, ever. ever, right? They're just some people who they said it, and they were so like, no, you can't tell me otherwise. Then there's the rest of us where like society can be a little cruel, and we might bend a little bit on like, no, that's not as stable. You can't do this. You can't do that. But your natural curiosities around that age are fascinating if you really look at them. And what happens at about 21, 22 years old is responsibility comes in, quote unquote, meaning the world starts telling you like, listen, like you have to start getting responsible about your life. You have to start making some better choices, quote unquote, and meaning that if the thing hasn't happened for you yet, you have to go do something that, does make sense to the rest of the world. And I disagree with that completely, because it will derail you. What is to say how much time something good for you should take? Number one. Number two is that we're all unique individuals, and we all should be doing our thing that we're here and meant to do. Now, I agree with responsibility from the standpoint of, okay, you want to build like the dopest, baddest cars in the world? Cool. Work for an awesome custom garage. Don't go be an accountant and miss out on the dream. Yeah. You want to be like the greatest basketball coach ever? Cool. Go be a ball boy on a high school basketball team, then a college basketball team, then the NBA, and work your way up. So like they don't teach that sometimes in school or in society. They move you away in some ways from a natural curiosity, or like me, because I had parents who always encouraged the dreams. For me, I took such a blow at my first startup that it shook me to my core right out of my lane. It sort of, meaning like I moved away from some of those passions. But the next 10 years or so, 10, 11 years, I did at least do a lot of work that kind of led me right back to where I left off. Like a lot of the same stuff from my youth, from my teens, my early 20s, coming right back in. Music, tech, fashion, like all of these things that I was around that I wanted to be a part of are now part of podcasts and media and, the branding and the job, all the stuff that I'm working on and around, came right back around. So hopefully that made sense, but like a lot of our natural curiosities when we're young are actually signals for where we really want to go. So I encourage people to think about their natural curiosities that they had a long time ago, and not be so scared about what that actually, about how to get there. If somebody wants to go be the next like Karl Lagerfeld, fashion designer, go for it. Like have fun with that, go be an apprentice somewhere. And so you don't even have to go be an entrepreneur by yourself. Like you could literally just be like, no, I really want to go do this. Like I'm going to quit that banking job and I'm going to go, intern. Maybe I'll go like work for free for 3 months at, the Louis Vuitton house. And, just show them my worth. I've got 3 months of savings. Tell them like, listen, I got 3 months of savings. I will work for you for free just to like be around this environment. And if you like me at the end of 3 months, cool. Could you imagine the life trajectory change you would have from just taking that approach? You don't have to be an entrepreneur designing your own handbags by yourself. Like you could literally go pull something like that off and like change your whole trajectory just like that. That to me is like amazing. You could do that at any age, at any time. Sure. Imagine the balls to be able to go into any place and say something like that. And they look at you like, yeah, all right, let's do this. Like, I got to see where this goes,
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny, actually, because I always speak about that. And it's regardless of whether it's business or life or whatever, the environment that you put yourself in or you find yourself in is really key to the outcome of your future or and your current future and what it is you want. Is so much the people, the places, the things, and as a collective, there's a way of doing things. So if it's not in alignment with the things that you want, then you need to change that environment and do it quick, man. Otherwise you just be doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and so that's the other side of our identity, of our journey, right? Is that, and again, this entrepreneur and I had this conversation yesterday, is that we have to be willing to tackle the things about ourselves or we will see the same patterns. And it's as simple as the moment you see the pattern again, just be like, stop.
Yeah.
Why am I seeing this again? And what do I need to change immediately? And working, I have found, and we talked about this when you were here in Arizona, working through the emotions versus just, see, people think that they're solving their emotions by like, oh, you know what? I need to get up. I'm going to go to the gym right now. You know what? I'm going to get up. I'm going to go for, a drive, or I'm going to go eat, or I'm going to go this. That's good. By the way, those things are good. They're healthy for you. Still got to think about, though, the thing that's triggering you too. And instead of just running from it, actually just be like, you know what? Okay, fuck it. Like, why is this happening? Like, let me figure out why this is happening. And then I think by doing that, we're able to move through things faster and make decisions faster and create faster and not be as much in our heads. And also, we can also set better boundaries for ourselves with that outside noise, because it's so easy for people to project onto us. So by me now dealing more with my emotions, it's made me a better entrepreneur as well, because now the conversations I'm having are different too. I'm not seeing the same patterns anymore because I'm not allowing them to happen. So the moment I see somebody projecting onto me, you know, even the good people, I have to say, listen, I have to draw the line in the sand. Those are your words. Those are your words. Those are your thoughts. And that's okay. But I need those to belong to you. You have to own those words and thoughts for you. Doesn't make them mine. And that's not where I'm coming from. If that's your perspective, that is then all you are seeing. But you have to own that you said that, not me. I just want to make that clear. So like, I'm able to now start having more of those kind of conversations with people, and they kind of go like, okay, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's true. That's so true. It's funny. I was having this conversation. I think I put it on my story today, on my Insta story, and it's about recognizing patterns and working out what you know, where you're going with things. And I think sometimes you can be so stuck in the emotional response first and foremost, and then the second time around, you might be, this has happened again. I've been here, but this is like Groundhog Day. What is this teaching me? What do you know? And then get curious about it, and rather than try and resist or be emotional or resistant, if you can then just observe it and think and look for the questions that will give you some sort of insight or some sort of gift as to, you know, how to change this pattern, then you've transcended the thing that you were already, your environment, the thing that you're in, you're looking at it from a higher perspective. So therefore it can't affect you anymore. And it was one of the key things from my own experiences. I've noticed that, I've had the feeling, that feeling's the same because I recognize it, but there's nowhere near as powerful, and it's nowhere near as detrimental or damaging or whatever. So okay, we'll just move around this because I can see that's happened, and I'll wait for the lessons to come in, and I'll keep an eye on it, and I'll see it, and then but it doesn't have any immediate power over me anymore. And that's the part of the evolution. But again, it's work, man. You got to do the work. You can't hide.
No, it takes practice, right? I mean,
practice.
It takes a lot of practice, and it's funny because when you start turning it into a game, you start having a little bit more fun with it. Obviously, there's moments where you're like, "Ooh, that really hurt." You know what I mean? Somebody says something that triggers you, and you're like, "Okay, we're gonna deal with this one." You know, we're gonna let's figure this one out. You know, but over time, the practice of that makes you allows you to be much more fluid because you stop being so reactive to people's work. It just lightens everything for your world, not always for the other people. That's sometimes difficult too, you know. And including, I always have to say it, including good people in your life, because as we continue to transcend and make our own moves, sometimes there's people who kind of will go off the path for a little while. Some will come back on eventually one day, some won't.
Yeah. I think for me, it's so exciting at this point in time now is that it's so personal. Everything's so personal to the individual and the growth of the individual. I think as we're talking, I'm thinking this is very much, we're talking about entrepreneurship, right? But at the same time, this is about expansion as an individual, as a human being. and then connecting with people from heart to heart, heart led, and like you say, purpose driven, from a real unique space, and that's so exciting. And at the same time, it's new ground. I think we're kind of almost like, fuck it, I'm gonna say it, pioneering. It's very, because there is no formula there is no structure anymore to follow as such as, you need to do this, and this, like you did in school, or like you do and then go to college, then you go and do this job, and then you go to university, then you get into this job. There's no real, trying to fit round pegs into square holes anymore.
Those structures that were taught, that are still being taught, came from a different era. They no longer apply. Those learning institutions and structures are not teaching what now really applies. Some are, if you can find them. I know that there are, but most don't. And so, yeah, and and business has changed. How could it not?
Sure.
It's, everything is energy and everything evolves, more or less. And that which does not evolve, sooner or later will have its ending, Actually, I guess anything does. But yeah, so business has changed, and a lot of that isn't necessarily being taught. And so that's kind of an interesting thing, like an interesting time that we're living in my opinion. And, you said that, well, things are a lot more personal now. And when I say personal, I don't mean like that people taking it personally, like from an emotional standpoint. I mean, like, business has become more personable. Like, it's, hey, listen, I want to give you the best possible experience, but I need to understand who you are. Yeah. I can't hide from you. I can't mask. I can't like look all like really cool. I mean, sure, there's a lot of people who still do that, but they're going to be left behind at some point here in the near future. I have to genuinely care about you and take care of you. And so from a business, from a good customer service, a good business practice, of course, keep some boundaries in there as like, I can't also spread myself too thin as a human being. Yeah. So there's this balance of like, business is becoming your personal life, and your personal life is becoming your business, because the two are fusing because of like, well, I love doing this and I want to help a market who has a need for this. And that needs my personal attention into it. And that's what will, bring success. And also I think too that your character as an individual will be the same as the character of the person who leads the business, and how the business is viewed by the rest of the world. Right. So again, back to identity and your soul. Like, that's why I always say, like, a business is in the market to serve a need, and you hope that it's profitable. A brand is iconic. A true brand is living to be an icon and transcend itself and its legacy, right? That's why Apple is still Apple, but Steve Jobs is gone, right? Because it was injected like all of that passion, all of that soul, all of that nature and energy of everything that it was meant to become from an individual who had a lot of other individuals around him making that happen. But and so that's where. So I know a lot of these things I'm saying right now today on this call are like a rant, but it's just funny because it is all intertwined. We are living in a different time now, and the internet and technology has afforded us that ability to do so.
True. Wow. Again, it's like, again, I knew it was going to be another good one, but wow, I don't even know what to say. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's entrepreneurship has such an interesting reputation, and you hear a lot of the greats out there right now who say like, entrepreneur, like it's a saturated word, and it's this. What I agree with about that is that I think it's just because we're living in a time where more people are waking up and being like, okay, enough. Even if I start this as a side hustle, what do I love to do? Because the old school shit that used to kind of sedate me from the crap that I'm doing that I don't like isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
So what does a side hustle or hobby over here look like? and they start building on it and doing it, and they start to notice a paradigm shift. They go to work and they feel like shit. They come home and they work on this and they're like, it's a new drug. Sure. It's the new drug. It's a good drug. Because they're like, this feels good. And then they start to notice the difference in their life, that when they do this, they feel healthier, their relationships are stronger, their communication is better. Like, all this stuff is happening that they're like, something isn't working over here. Now, I'm not then imploring people that then you have to say, okay, the side hustle may not be ready yet. Please jump ship from your responsibilities. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm just saying that you can alter things based on understanding that when you realize what feels good, you just want to do more. Feels good from an energetic level and a, integrity driven level, not like a desire level. You know what I'm saying? Like, very big distinction, from like your soul's level. It just feels good. Then you can alter the other areas of your life to help accommodate that, even if it's not jumping ship from working a job. You can just work a different job that accommodates this feeling and nurtures it. You said it earlier, it's environments. Everything is environments. Everything. Period. End of story. If you're by yourself, that's not a good environment. You need the right people around you for sure. And that is everything, from the people you work out with, to the people you have conversations with, to the people you go out with, to the people you work with. Everything is environments. And I'm going to tell you right now, you'll either be stalled many, many years or elevated and accelerated many, many years early, depending on your environments. Like, it's everything. It's
I was so glad, because as we were talking, I thought, oh, don't forget to ask him about community. And that's what, and it's so key. And I just wanted to talk on, like, I remember having this conversation with my mum, who's now 76, and she's from Barbados, and at the time in the country, and she was telling me about, you'd have one guy who was the butcher, and he would go in whenever there was an animal to slaughter. You'd take him to him, or he'd slaughter, and then everybody would get something. The same with the vegetables. My gran was the seamstress, so people used to go to her for like dresses and other bits and pieces for school and whatever. And it feels like, this was an era. This is still kind of, well, I suppose when my mum was growing up, it was still part of the industrial age, but it probably hadn't reached that out there yet. But it feels like we're going back that way. And it's funny, when I go back there now, even as the grandson, there's a feeling like I don't even know who these people are, and the love that these people give me for me, because how's your mum and whatever. She's not gone there. Sending my regards. It is just, wow. The level of safety, the words like safety, love, compassion, and genuine, authentic interest in your well-being is just unparalleled. And I just wanted to, you're a big advocate of communities also, but in as far as what you've created with Alchemy Tribe and everything else, I just wondered if you could I could hear your take on communities, now and also going into the future. I'm going to go on a tear on this one. Let's finish strong, brother. Let's finish strong.
Right. Community is everything. It really is. It's actually also part of one of my upcoming launches. In kind of helping brands, I'm actually, a big component of it is actually the infrastructure of a community. I came to that conclusion from a lot of the stuff that we've done together, and then that I've just done over the last couple of years. And even, a gentleman we had on our podcast the other day, they're growing a vast tech app solely by including their audience 100% of the way. They literally have created, it's called Headliner app. Please look into them for your videos. If you want to make, turn your audio and all this stuff into like videos with closed captions and things like that, cool. And waves and all that stuff. It's a free app. They have other ways that they make money, but it's a free app. And they actually include their user base the entire way through. They even have a Trello board that they're all invited to go into and put so Trello is like a task tracking, really cool platform for any of your listeners that are curious. And you could put in like your requests and, oh, this is what I'm experiencing. Oh, can I get help with this? They'll go on and do webinars for people for like 20, 30 minutes to show them how to do something, just to use it. They want more people to use their service, and they're including them the entire way. 1,000 videos a day, 1,500 videos a day, 2,000 videos a day, right? Being exported. What do you think is going to happen? So that's one aspect of community in terms of, if you are a company or a brand, getting to know the people that you do it for cuts down so much anxiety, cuts down all the anxiety. Really, the only anxiety you have is just kind of being able to kind of like, figure out the system and the formula for how you can deliver, efficiently without, at the expense of you. But I know what they want. I know who they are. I know what they're using it for. I know what else that they need. I know their thoughts. I know their emotions. They love that I answer and respond to them. I get their feedback and testimonials. You develop like love around this thing that you're building, and where do you think it's going to go? Like, success paramount. And it's inevitable. But community concept as a whole for your brand is a lot of those elements, but it also creates a safe place for the people you serve, right? So that's a key in a world of noise. Creating a safe place for people to have an exchange and connect on any particular subject or topic or industry or niche or idea or whatever it might be. And that creates a ripple effect as well too. And so whatever it is you're trying to build, like you could even be like, I always try to use like very, things outside of our, things from the matrix that are outside of our realm. Like, let's say you are, an accountant, but you create a really cool community around understanding financial responsibility. And in that community, every Monday you do a live where you answer people's questions about, that they have about, their finances. And you build that group up to like 1,000 people who are open and comfortable to ask questions about financial responsibility, which, by the way, is very hard for a lot of people to ask help about money. That's a very tricky subject for a lot of people. That's 1,000 people in that group. What do you think happens to like people interacting with each other? Like, hey, how did you do this? How did you do that? Oh, I thought about this, and this is what was really helpful. Oh, okay, cool. On top of that, maybe the financial service provider or the accountant actually now says, okay, actually, you guys can also become like my clients as well too. Because there's also a trust of like, wow, like this guy is always answering our questions, or girl is always answering our questions. I need a little bit more help than that. Let me like work with that person now more one-on-one. Oh, but also I have a community of other people who are all asking these questions. Oh, I just noticed that so-and-so has a naturopath practice, as do I. How are you doing your books? I would love to know how you set it up. Oh, I use this and this resource. Oh, that's great. And then you see another person who says, oh, like, you're running your business like this. Have you thought about using this and this resource? It'll probably cut down on your expenses. So there's a whole other thing that goes on in a community ecosphere within the bigger ecosphere, right?
Sure.
And I think that's the part that like people don't like understand. I mean, like you and Renata just did, a cast together, both in Alchemy Tribe, done a session with Katie, like you guys exchanged a lot of like, cool, ideas in that, we had Manifest as an event, like, and then from there, other people share what they're learning and like how they're building something. So that's the beauty of community, is that there's so much more vast success built in an environment that is curated, accordingly, and its, its vibe, if you will. Although that there is a lot of responsibility there, and it does take time. So, as you know. But yeah, so community like can literally solve most issues or things that you're looking to expand on in a healthy environment. Business expansion,
awareness to what you're doing, practicing your things for your whatever it is you're building and creating, connection, communication, like everything. And I say most of the work because we still have to do our internal work too, because we always have to keep in mind that in a community setting, are we also attempting to bring our best self too, because there's more than one involved. So I think that that's also like it's not just like, I'm going to go into a community and, I'm going to take. You can't. And you also have to be cognizant of how you interact with a community. And I'll give you something that not even this person even knows, that nobody actually even knows, nobody even saw this. I recently got rid of somebody from the group. Nobody knows. I don't even think this individual even knows that this individual was removed. I saw a few comments that I didn't like. They weren't drastic, but they were negative. And I can't have you affect people who are working on themselves just because you're having a bad day, And this has happened multiple times, so you're gone.
Yeah.
It's not to say every case is taken that way, because it's not. Sometimes you want to reach out and be like, hey, is everything okay? But this individual in general, there was a couple of times proposed hey, everything okay? Is it that? And then the answers were they were almost a little too negative. And I'm like, you'll always be welcome back. But at the same time, I need you to go work on that, because this community is being very open about some things, and you can't use some of that language. It was very small. It was negative and not appropriate. While people are kind of pouring out hey, I'm trying to figure this out, or hey, this is what I'm working on. You can't you have to know who are you bringing to the table as a person into a community, just the same as what are you getting out of it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's my rant on business and on support and environments. But
yeah, and there's so much power that comes out of those communities as well. And like you say, protecting it is very key as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because look, if the environment is so important, then you have to treat it like it.
True. Yeah.
Right.
End of story. Yeah. End of story.
Right. I mean, my least amount of words in this entire, but it's true.
That's true.
True. If environment is as important as it is, then we have to treat it as such.
Cool. No, that's cool. Yeah. Matt, thank you so much, brother. Thanks so much for your time. That was awesome as always. Really enjoyed that. And just quickly, where can people reach you? Where's the best place to get hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few places to interact. Obviously on Instagram, there's HDF Magazine, and at Matt Gottesman. I love the personal brand on Matt Gottesman because, even more ways to interact. And then they can join, Alchemy Tribe if they're an entrepreneur or creator or something like that, or they feel like, they want that. I'll leave that at your discretion. I always say anybody can invite people in that, just kind of wanting to learn more about their passion and how to kind of bring it to the world. MattGottesman.com, which is relaunching here in about a week or so.
Awesome.
Yeah. And or through you, they can ping you, and
sure.
I'm pretty accessible, but if they want to ping through you, that'd be great.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you very much, Matt, for your time. And you just, like I say before, you just do some great things and open your eyes. And when anybody who is watching this and wants to understand what community looks like, or how you create a tribe, or the kind of impact a tribe can have, then I would definitely advise you to check out HDF Magazine or join the Alchemy Tribe as well if you're a creator, and see what's going on and see the conversations and the level of self-awareness, I would say, and purpose-driven people that are in that community as well. So they are, it's a very, very unique space to be in. I'm very grateful for that, and grateful for all the interactions with that I get to have with Matt as well. And as I say, he is a very accessible guy. I know he's working on some boundaries around that, but he will come back to it at some point. So yeah, which is equally, that's very commendable, and it's quite unheard of as well, because you see some of these people have self-proclaimed superstar status, bless them. But Matt is not that way at all. If he can help you, he definitely will. So feel free to reach out. Don't feel like you don't have to, or you can't. He's not like he's up on this pedestal, because he's a very inclusive leader. Caveat, Matt.
No, that was humbling. Thank you. And I was gonna say, I forgot to add the Hustle Sold Separately podcast, which I'm very proud of, because of kind of really what you just said, is bringing that same. There's a lot of people out there doing incredible things and have that kind of same, they're humble about it, and they're willing to talk about their journey and what they're learning in real time, versus kind of that end success, and whether they're a couple years into their venture or like their quote unquote superstar status, they're very humble on that show, and they talk about like, hey, here's like what I'm learning right now, and it's cool, because I think that any listener that listens to it can relate and say, oh wow, they're just like me, they're no different than me. And I think that that's a really reassuring feeling when we're on our journey. So I was going to add that, but thank you. That was very humbling, and I appreciate you as always.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's great. Okay, well, I'll let you go and let you carry on for the rest of your day anyway. But thanks a lot, Matt.
Thank you, sir. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Cheers, bye.